So the transfer window has now shut, and in today's video we're going to be talking about some of the deals which went through on deadline day, and we are going to be going through every single championship club, and I'm going to be giving them a ranking out of 10 for how I think their transfer window's gone. Of course, we still have the loan window open, so there is a bit of adjustment that I can make to some of these rankings if teams do bring in some loans between now and the end of the month, but we're going to be judging them on the signings that they have made so far. So I'm going to be giving them a ranking between 1 and 10, and I'd be interested to know what you guys would rank your club for how well you think you've done in this transfer window. Do you think you've had a good one, or do you think you could have done a bit better? We'll go through them in alphabetical order, and if you do go to enjoy the video, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. If you've not seen it, make sure you go to check out my week 2 score predictions. That video came out yesterday, but apart from that, guys, let's go ahead and hop into this. So to start things out, we have Aston Villa to go ahead and talk about, and overall I'd suggest that it's not actually been the disaster of a window for Villa that we thought it might be after they lost that playoff final to Fulham. You know, they had all the financial regulations looming over them. It looked like they may have to sell absolutely everyone, but that's not been the case in the end. I'd say that the best business that Villa have done in this transfer window is keeping the likes of Jack Grealish, James Chester and Jonathan Kodjia. I would say that their squad now compared to last season is weaker. You know, they don't have the likes of Sam Johnson, John Terry, Robert Snodgrass or Lewis Grabban anymore, but the players they brought in have been solid. McGinn's coming in from Scotland. He has good reviews from there. I think he'll be a good player for them. Probably the funniest thing about Villa in this transfer window though was the whole saga with Joe Bryan, and I'm sure you guys are fully aware of it. He agreed to go to Villa. It looked like he was on the verge of signing for them, and then last minute Fulham came in to go ahead and snatch him away. So that was a pretty funny transfer story in the end. But for Villa, I'm going to go ahead and give them a 6 out of 10. Their squad is not really improved, but they've kept hold of their big players, which will be big for them this year. Next up, we then have Birmingham City. In my opinion, Birmingham really haven't had a brilliant transfer window. They had the whole transfer embargo to go ahead and sort out, which hampered them for this one. Also, the fact that they didn't manage to shift some of their big earners like David Stockdale and Thomas Kuszczak. They, of course, brought in Lee Camp. I really don't think that's a brilliant signing for them. They've got potential in there. You know, Pedersen comes in as a left-back from the 2nd German division. Possibly he could be a good signing. They're 2 loan signings as well, Omar Bogle and Conor Mahoney. Mahoney I fancy to be a good signing for them. Omar Bogle has all the qualities to be a good championship striker, but his record so far in the championship doesn't suggest that he's going to be prolific for Birmingham. Overall for Birmingham, I'm going to give them a 4 out of 10. I don't think it's been a brilliant window for them. Up next, we then have Blackburn Rovers. For Blackburn, it's been a fairly quiet transfer window, really. They've not had many incomings, but they've also not had many outgoings. I think that it's going to be big for them that they managed to keep hold of Bradley Dack. A couple of clubs were interested in, especially earlier on in the window, so to keep him will be big this season. Also, re-signing Adam Armstrong. He was on loan there last season. They managed to make him a permanent signing. Not really hit it off in the championship so far, but he seems to have a good chemistry with this Blackburn side, so if he can make it anywhere, chances are he'll do well for Blackburn. Also, the loan signing of Casey Palmer, I think he'll do well there. Very good player coming in from Chelsea for this season, and they've also signed a couple of youngsters as well. I feel like there are a couple of areas where Blackburn could have perhaps strengthened another striker and another winger maybe, but it's been a solid window for them. They've not really pushed on to the next level, but I think they'll be a good side this season. Overall for Blackburn, I'm going to give them a 6. It's been a solid window. Up next, we then have Bolton Wanderers, and Bolton have had a really hectic transfer window. On the last day, of course, they missed out on Joe Garner. In the end, he did move to Wigan Athletic. Bolton fans, what do you make of that? Let me know down below. Overall, though, Bolton have done, I mean, for the financial constraints they had there, you know, they were mostly working with free transfers and loan deals. I do feel like their starting 11 now is stronger than it was last season. So for that, I think it's been a decent window for them. A couple areas I feel like they may need a bit more depth. A couple loan players would be useful from now until the end of the month, but overall for Bolton, I'm going to give them a 6.5 out of 10. I think considering everything going on at the club, that starting 11 is stronger. Wilshere, I think, will be a very good deal for them. Oztumer could be a good one. Josh McGuinness is going to chip in with goals, and they've also brought in quite a bit of championship experience. So overall for Bolton, I'll give them a 6.5. They've improved the starting 11. Next up, we then have Brentford. For Brentford, I'd suggest that they've had a fairly good transfer window, purely for the reason that they managed to keep hold of their big players. Towards the end of the window, Ryan Woods was heavily being linked with a move to Swansea City, but he is still a Brentford player. I think that going into this season, that will be massive for them. Also, Ollie Watkins, a few clubs were sniffing around him at the start of the transfer window. They managed to keep hold of him and a lot more of their attacking threats. They did lose a couple of players. They lost John Egan and Josephine as well to championship clubs, although I don't think there'll be massive losses to this Brentford side. They've already got players in that starting 11 who can come in and replace them, and the signings they've made have been fairly good as well. They brought in 2 defenders in Cosner and Jean Villa. Odebajo coming in on a free transfer will be a good one for them, and they of course brought that winger in from League 1. So overall for Brentford, I'll give them a 7. I think it's been a good window for them. Up next, we then have Bristol City, and they have had a very hectic transfer window. possibly losing 3 of their best players from last season in Bobby Reid, Aidan Flint and Joe Bryan. Bristol City fans, let me know down below what have you made of this window. The players they brought in have been solid championship players, but no one that immediately stands out to me to make me think that they're going to push on to the next level this season. Molly Watkins can be quite hit or miss, didn't really have a great time at Norwich. Jack Hunt I do think is an improvement. They needed a right back, and for him to come in I think will be a good signing for them. They also brought in Issa coming in from League 2, whether he'll hit it off in the Championship we're not so sure. Andrus Weimann coming in for Derby County, he was alright, never really excelled like they wanted him to. Maybe Lee Johnson can get the best out of him. And of course they brought in Adam Webster from Ipswich to go ahead and replace Aidan Flint as well. Overall, when I look at the Bristol City squad, I do think it's weaker than it was this time last season, so for that reason, I'm going to give them a 5. Next up, we then have Derby County, and without doubt having one of the best transfer windows in the Championship. Yes, it is a fact that they did lose Vidra, their top scorer from last season. Had a terrific year there, but that was inevitable really, and with the way that Lampard wants to set up this season, I think that losing Vidra won't actually be a massive loss for Derby. When you look at some of the incomings coming into this side, I'm really excited to see how they're going to set up this season. Waghorn's a player who intrigues me, and whether Lampard intends to use him as a striker or as a winger. In my opinion, he's probably going to be more effective as a striker, but with Jack Marriott also playing there, and with Lampard playing one up front, we got a bit of a battle going on there. Also, what could be said about Derby last season is they had an incredibly old squad. Lampard's looked to address this. A lot of players they brought in this transfer window have been on the right side of 20. They brought in some phenomenal loan deals from the Premier League, and they also went ahead and completed the signing of Scott Malone coming in from Huddersfield Town. Last time he was in the Championship, he was an absolutely phenomenal defender for Fulham, and that transfer caught me off guard a little bit. I wasn't expecting it to come in, but they were in need of a left back in my opinion, and they've gone ahead and done that. Overall for Derby, I'm going to go ahead and give them a 9 out of 10. The only reason I'm not going to give them a 10 is because they have got a huge squad at the moment, and they really need to offload some players. On next, we then got Hull City, and for Hull, I think it's been a bit of a disaster of a transfer window really. For this whole time, they've needed to bring in a striker, and in the end, no one's come in. They could look into the loan market, but at this point in time, I just don't see where the goals are going to come from this Hull squad, to be honest. They lost a lot of players at the end of last season as well, with players running out of contracts and then not being able to re-sign them. Looking at some of the players they've brought in, some of them are alright. Todd Kane and Lehigh have strengthened that right-back position. Brought in a couple centre-backs as well, the likes of Reece Burke. Another centre-back brought in from PSV, and George Long as a goalkeeper. Overall for Hull City though, I'm going to give them a 3. I really don't think it's been a good window for them. Ipswich Town are the team coming in next, and their big outgoing this season was Martin Waghorn. But looking at some of their incomings, they're all coming from the lower league or a couple from the Premier League on loan. Overall though, I do quite like the look of this Ipswich side going into this season. They've signed Caden Jackson, he came in from Accrington Stanley, a couple other players from the lower leagues, Ellis Harrison coming in from Bristol Rovers, Edwards coming in from Peterborough. They got a couple of players from Shrewsbury, Donatien coming in from Accrington Stanley as well, and they also got the loans from the Premier League in Chalobah and Adoon. They have lost their main talisman in Martin Waghorn, so that is going to drag their grading down a little bit, but overall for Ipswich, I'm going to give them a 6. I think the players they brought in from the lower leagues, I'm quite excited to see what they can do for Ipswich this year. Then to Leeds United, they have a really slow start to this transfer window, but then later on they started to pick up the pace a little bit. Their big signing, of course, being Patrick Bamford coming in from Middlesbrough. They were in desperate need of a striker, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Bamford can do. I think he'll fit quite well into this Bielsa system, and I do fancy him to score quite a few goals for Leeds this season. Also going ahead and signing Barry Douglas, an exceptional signing from Wolves. Last season as a left wing back, he managed to register 14 assists in the Championship, and he will be a phenomenal signing for them. They also brought in quite a few loans from the Premier League in Baker, Harrison and Blackman. I still feel like Leeds are in need of a couple more positions though. A centre-back and a defensive midfielder are the main priority from now until the end of the loan window in my opinion, but overall for Leeds, I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10. I think it's been a good window. Up next, we then have Middlesbrough, and Middlesbrough are a really tricky team to go ahead and grade in my opinion. If you look at their team now compared to their team last season, it's been downgraded, but the players they've brought in aren't necessarily bad players now. Aidan Flint's a good player, Paddy McNair and Jordan Hugo coming in on loan I think will be a good sign for them. But then you look at the positions where Middlesbrough needed to strengthen this window, and they've not gone ahead and done that. They desperately needed a central creative player in this team, someone to play as a number 10. They've not gone ahead and addressed that. Also the fact that they lost Adama Traore and they've not brought in another winger, that's a little bit worrying for me for Middlesbrough going into this season. They still have the loan window to look at, but overall for Middlesbrough, I'm going to give them a 5 out of 10. I think it's not been a good window for them. Then we have Millwall coming up next. For the whole of the transfer window, it seemed like they were being lit with Tom Bradshaw. In the end, they didn't manage to get him. I feel like a couple more players on on loan for Millwall will be needed from now until the end of the loan window, but looking at some of the players they brought in, it's been an alright window for them. Skark, I think, will be a good winger coming in from Brighton. I'm excited to see what he can do over the course of a full season. Ben Amos coming in from Bolton, not the biggest fan of him. Maybe he can provide a bit of competition for Archer. And they also brought in Wallace from Scunthorpe. I'd say that the best business that Millwall did in this window, though, was keeping hold of their big players. Quite a few were being linked away towards the later stages of the transfer window, but they managed to keep that group of players together, and for that, I'm going to give them a 6 out of 10. Norwich at the side up next. They had a very busy transfer window. I actually think they did some very good business, really. They lost James Maddison. That's, of course, going to be a big void in their team. You know, a player like that going to Leicester City for 25 million is always going to be a big blow for anyone in the Championship. Last season, scoring 14 goals. They also lost Josh Murphy, although I don't think that'll be the biggest loss in the world for them, really. Looking at some of the players that Norwich have brought in, though, quite a few unknowns in there, but I am actually very excited to see how Norwich do this season. They brought in the likes of Ben Marshall coming in as a bit of Championship experience. Last season for Millwall, he was very good. Also, Jordan Rhodes, if they get him scoring, he has the potential to be a very good loan signing this season. Felix Passlack comes from Dortmund, a player with a lot of pedigree. To get lined out on a permanent deal is a very good bit of business for them as well. Tim Krul, I think, will be a good goalkeeper. Last season they had Angus Gunn, but I think Tim Krul would be a decent replacement for them. And Timu Pukki as well. Overall for Norwich, I'm going to give them a 7. Decent window for them. Up next we then have Nottingham Forest, another side who has had a phenomenal transfer window, and for them, I've got to give them a high number, really. Looking at some of their incomings this season, João Carvalho, Lewis Graben, Pantilimon and Sudani. On transfer deadline day, they also completed the deal for Helfer, coming in from Huddersfield Town. I don't think he featured a lot for them in the Premier League last season, but as a centre-back coming into this squad, I think he'll be a very good addition for them. In the Championship, in their promotion season, he was an absolute rock at the back. They've also had some very good loan deals in the likes of Goncalves and Gil Diaz coming in. The one thing I'd suggest that they needed that they didn't get in the end was a right-back. They've still got the loan window to go ahead and sort that out, but overall Forest, I'm going to give them a 9 out of 10. A very good transfer window. Their squad has vastly improved from this time last season, and it's been a very good window for them. Only thing they're missing is a right back. Up next, we then have my team, Preston North End, and on deadline day, we managed to go ahead and complete the loan signing of Lucas Metzger coming in from Manchester City on a season-long loan. Pep Guardiola is said to rate this guy very highly, and there were quite a lot of Championship clubs in for him. In pre-season for Man City, he went on to impress, so it was clear that Guardiola wanted to send him out on loan for him to get some first-team action this season. For the first team, I think he's made 2 appearances so far, but in pre-season, he very highly impressed Guardiola. I think he scored a goal against Bayern Munich, has a ton of pace going forward and likes to drive at people. Just what we were in need of in this transfer window after Maguire has been ruled out for 10 weeks, and I'm really excited to see what he can do for us this season. In terms of the whole window for Preston, I think it's been a fairly solid one for us. We've not broke the bank for anyone coming in, but the signings have been very solid. Ryan Ledson will be a good addition. Brandon Barker also coming in from Manchester City on a season-long loan, and quite a few other players who I think will go on to have good years for Preston. The big outgoing for us was, of course, Greg Cunningham, who has gone to Cardiff City. A player like that and his quality we're always going to miss, but so far Andrew Hughes has gone to fill his boots quite well, really. So for Preston, I'm going to give us a 7 out of 10. Good window for us. Next up, we then got QPR. For QPR, it's really not been a great window for them. They've only gone ahead and made 1 signing, that being Leitner coming in as a centre-back. I think he'll be a good player for them, but looking at some of the positions that they needed to strengthen in this transfer window to go ahead and progress this season, they've not gone ahead and addressed that. Of course, they lost Alex Smithies earlier on in the transfer window. Losing a goalkeeper of that quality is always going to be a big blow for them, but they've got goalkeepers to come in and replace him. The big news for QPR was that they have managed to keep hold of Luke Freeman in this transfer window. That's going to be massive for them. You know, Middlesbrough and Blackburn Rovers both interested on deadline day, but he has managed to stay. Looking at some of the positions that they needed to strengthen, though, in this window, and they've not gone on to do that. For QPR, I'm going to give them a 4 out of 10. Not been a brilliant window for them. Up next, we then got Reading. For Reading, it's been a bit of an odd transfer window, really. Liam Moore, in the end, has stayed. So, Reading fans, let me know down below what you make of that. Is his head going to be in the right frame of mind? I'm not so sure, but to keep Liam Moore and a player of his quality is going to be big for them. Looking at the players they've brought in, none of them have really gone on to blow me away. David Miller, I think, will be a solid sign for them. They were in need of another striker, and in the end, they brought in Mark McNulty and Sam Baldock. Between them this season, I see them scoring around, I don't know, maybe 14 goals, 7 goals each, something like that maybe, but nothing's really gone to blow me away with Reading in this transfer window, and for them, I'm going to give them a 5 out of 10. Up next, we then have Rotherham United, and for them, it's been a bit of a disappointing transfer window. I'm not going to lie about that. I think that to come back up to the Championship this season, the squad they got promoted with, they've got a few decent players in the core squad of that, but to really go ahead and push up this year, they were going to need quite a few players to come in. They've relied on loans and free transfers, and for that reason, I can't see them surviving in the Championship this year. Out of all the signs they've brought in, Kyle Vassell's probably the player who intrigues me the most. I think that stepping up to the Championship from Blackpool last season, where he was a decent player in League One, got a turn of pace about him, Possibly his goals could see Rotherham do something this season, but overall for them, I'm going to give them a 4 out of 10. Not been a great window for Rotherham. Sheffield United, I think it's fair to say that they've not had the greatest of starts to the season, going ahead and losing their first 2 games, but in terms of their transfer business, on the whole, I think it's been a fairly good window for them, really. They are still probably in need of another striker to go ahead and come in, David McGoldrick being the only striker to come in so far. The big outgoing from Sheffield United was losing David Brooks to Bournemouth. They got a decent figure for him in the end, so I don't think that that's the worst thing in the world, and to replace him with Ben Woodburn for this season, I think is a decent replacement for him, really. They've strengthened that back line with John Egan coming in from Brentford. I think that Dean Henderson will be a very good goalkeeper for them this season. Overall for Sheffield United, I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10. I think it's been a pretty good window for them. Next up we then have Sheffield Wednesday, and at Wednesday, not a lot's really happened. Overall for Sheffield Wednesday, I'm going to give them a 1 out of 10. The only reason I'm going to give them a 1 and not a 0 is because they've managed to keep hold of someone like Forestieri, but of course they have been under a transfer embargo, and for that reason they've not been able to sign anyone at all in this transfer window, so I can't really give them a rating, but I'll give them a 1 out of 10. They have lost some players. They've lost Jack Hunt, and Jordan Rhodes has gone out on loan, but apart from that, it's the same squad they had last year, and so for Sheffield Wednesday, I'll give them a 1 out of 10. Stoke City, I think, have had a good transfer window. Their first game against Leeds United, I think they need to put that behind them, really, but looking at the players they've actually gone ahead and brought in, on paper, I still think that Stoke have the best squad in the Championship. I don't really think that that can be argued with. Looking at some of the players they brought in, Tom Ince, I think, over the course of a season will be very good for them. Etebo comes in with a player with a lot of quality. He really went to impress me with Nigeria at the World Cup. James McLean will be a solid Championship player. Benny Kofobe should score goals for them, and Ashley Williams coming in as a loan at centre-back should give them a bit more stability. As well as that, they've also gone ahead and kept hold of Jack Butland, and I know that he did make a mistake against Leeds, but over the course of a season, I think a goalkeeper of Jack Butland's calibre will save you more points than he will lose you. So overall for Stoke, I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10. Up next we then have Swansea City, and Swansea City lately have just had a bit of a fire sale, really. I think going into the weekend's game, Swansea only have 1 senior centre-back to go ahead and register in the squad, and they've just been churning out the sales, and the more players they were selling, I thought, okay, soon they'll start buying players, but that's not been the case. They brought in forward options, you know, players like Bersant Salina, Joe Lasoro and Barry Mackay, I think will go on to have good seasons for Swansea, but they've just got so many holes in that back line, it's unbelievable. On transfer deadline day, it's looking like they were going to sign Ryan Woods. That didn't come off for them in the end, and overall, looking at that Swansea squad, they have got a lot of gaps in it at the moment. The players that they have brought in, I've been fairly impressed by, but just because of how little squad depth they have, I'm going to give them a 5 out of 10. We're going to have West Brom, and overall I think it's been a fairly good window for West Brom. Looking at some of the players they brought in and the players they've actually managed to keep in this transfer window, the likes of Jay Rodriguez, Chadley, Dawson and Livermore are all still at the club. Added to that, the players they brought in this window, with Sam Johnson and Kyle Bartley having Championship experience to go ahead and add to that back line, as well as that getting Harvey Barnes on loan for the season. He's looked terrific in a West Brom shirt so far. And they also went ahead and completed the loan signing of Dwight Gale coming in as a proven Championship goal scorer. What intrigues me about West Brom though is the big players that they've actually managed to keep at the club. Do they actually want to be there, and are they going to perform this season? West Brom fans, let me know down below. Overall for their transfer window though, I'll give them a 7.5 out of 10. And then finally we have Wigan Athletic, and I'd probably suggest that Wigan had the best transfer deadline day out of all the Championship clubs. Wigan fans, let me know down below what you made of your signings. Of course, bringing in Joe Garner and Josh Windass on deadline day being the main 2 signings. Joe Garner comes in as a striker. They were in need of another forward option in my opinion. Last season managed to score 10 goals in 32 appearances for them, picked up an injury towards the end of that season. I think that the type of player that Joe Garner is, Wigan fans will absolutely love him. It does pain me a little bit as a Preston fan that he has moved on to Wigan, but Preston, you know, we're moving in a different direction now. He's only 5'10", but he will win absolutely every header for you, I guarantee that, and he's the sort of player that puts 100% into absolutely every game and seems to have found his feet now in the Championship. When Preston had him in the Championship, wasn't really the most prolific of strikers, but yeah, he was putting in 100% every game, and I think that in a system which has players like Josh Windass and Nick Powell playing in behind him to give him that bit more quality, I think he'll do well for Wigan this season. They did, however, sell Dan Burn to Brighton for £4 million in the end. I believe his contract was expiring at the end of the season, but they do have him back on loan, I think until January, so we'll see what happens with that one. But Dan Burn to get him back on loan and to get £4 million for him, maybe that's not a bad deal for Wigan in the end. And overall for their transfer window, I've been very impressed by what Wigan have done lately. So for Wigan, I'm going to go ahead and give them an 8 out of 10. I think they've done some fantastic business. They've kept hold of their key players, especially Nick Powell, and I think they'll surprise a couple of people this year. So guys, that will now wrap it up for this video, so thank you so much for watching. If you did go on to enjoy, make sure you do leave a like and make sure you do leave a comment in the comment comments down below as to what do you rate your club's transfer dealings out of 10. But like I said guys, that will now wrap it up for this video, so if you did go in to enjoy, make sure you leave a like. Also as well, please do subscribe for some regular championship content. But apart from that guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.